I didn't ruin my life in one big mistake. I lost it in small, responsible decisions that felt smart at the time. My name is Jonathan Miller. I'm 74 years old, living in a quiet neighborhood outside Des Moines, Iowa, where the streets are quiet after sunset, and most of the houses have been standing longer than the families inside them. From the outside, my life looks stable. Paid-off house, 2 grown kids, retirement account that did what it was supposed to do. But for nearly 40 years, I wasn't really living, even though I convinced myself I was doing exactly what life required of me. I was operating, like a machine programmed to perform and produce without ever questioning the destination. There's a difference, and most people don't realize it until it's almost too late. In 1983, I got hired at a regional insurance company in Chicago, a place with gray cubicles and fluorescent lights that never seemed to turn off. Entry-level analyst, nothing fancy, but steady, benefits, health plan. A boss who told me, keep your head down and you'll go far. That sentence shaped my entire adulthood, more than any degree or promotion ever did. Keep your head down, because looking up might distract you from the race. And I did, without realizing what I was slowly giving up. Wake up at 6 a.m., commute on I-90, same coffee shop, same desk, same conversations about promotions and performance reviews. I wasn't miserable. I wasn't thrilled either. I told myself this is what being an adult feels like, a quiet acceptance of routine dressed up as responsibility. Here's the hook nobody warned you about. Autopilot doesn't feel dangerous, it feels efficient. It feels normal, and normal rarely sets off alarms in your mind. By 32, I married a woman named Rebecca Collins. She had a soft voice and a sharp mind. We bought a house in Naperville with a white fence and a maple tree in the yard. When our son Ethan was born, I remember standing in that hospital room promising I'd give him everything I never had. I kept that promise financially, making sure the bills were paid and the fridge was always full. Emotionally, that's where things slipped. When Ethan was 8, he asked me to come watch him at Little League practice. I said I had a late meeting. I didn't. I just didn't want to fall behind on a quarterly report. I told myself it was temporary. Temporary is the lie that autopilot feeds you, wrapped in logic and good intentions. You think you're postponing life, like it's a meeting you can reschedule. You're actually missing it, one ordinary afternoon at a time. By 40, I had the promotion. Bigger office, bigger paycheck, more responsibility. I felt important. People waited for my decisions. My phone buzzed nonstop. I liked that feeling more than I should have, because it made me feel needed. Let me ask you something and answer honestly in your own head. When was the last time you felt fully present without checking your phone, without splitting your attention in half? That question would have irritated me back then. I would have said, I'm busy, I'm building something. I believed productivity was proof of purpose. But busy is not the same as alive, and building is not the same as belonging. At 45, my daughter Madison had her first choir concert. I showed up. I sat in the second row, but I spent half the performance replying to emails under the dim auditorium lights. I remember clapping at the end, realizing I couldn't even tell you what song she sang, and pretending that didn't bother me. That's when a quiet thought entered my mind, softer than guilt, but heavier than pride. What if I'm here, but not really here, just physically occupying space? Autopilot doesn't crash your life in flames or scandal. It erases it slowly, like pencil marks fading on paper. At 48, I started waking up tired. Not physically exhausted, just drained. I had everything I once prayed for, but I felt strangely detached from it. Rebecca once asked me, "Are you happy?" I gave her a practical answer about stability and security. That wasn't what she asked. Happiness requires awareness. Autopilot numbs awareness. The real wake-up moment came at 52. My younger brother Daniel had a heart attack in his driveway in St. Louis. He survived, but I remember standing in that hospital hallway realizing how fragile we really are. We're not as young as we think, even when we feel invincible in routine. And time is not patient, no matter how organized your calendar looks. Driving home that night, I turned the radio off. No news, no sports, just silence. For the first time in years, I allowed myself to think without distraction, without background noise to protect me. And I didn't like what I saw reflected back at me. I had structured my life around efficiency, not meaning, confusing progress with purpose. That realization hurt because it stripped away my excuses. But pain can be a gift if you listen to it instead of silencing it. The next morning, instead of rushing to work, I sat on the edge of my bed and asked myself a question that changed everything about how I saw my days. If nothing changes, will I regret this when it's too late to fix it? The answer was yes, and it didn't take long to admit it. Not because I failed, but because I drifted without resistance. But because I coasted, letting routine decide what I was too distracted to choose. At 53, I made one small decision. I stopped bringing my laptop home on weekends. That sounds minor. It wasn't. It forced me to sit with my family without an escape hatch, without the glow of a screen pulling me away. The first few Saturdays felt uncomfortable. I kept reaching for a device that wasn't there. That's when I realized how addicted I was to distraction, how silence felt unfamiliar. Here's another hook for you, and it might sting. If you can't sit still for 10 minutes without stimulation, you're not free, no matter how successful you are. You're conditioned, trained to avoid your own thoughts. Rebecca and I started taking evening walks around the neighborhood. At first, the conversations were surface level. Groceries, weather, bills. But slowly, deeper things surfaced. Fears, regrets, hopes we had buried under schedules and obligations. I realized I had married an incredible woman, someone I had taken for granted in my rush to provide. And I had almost missed her, even while living under the same roof. Ethan left for college at 18. Madison followed 2 years later. The house grew quiet in a way I wasn't prepared for. One evening, standing in the kitchen in that same house in Naperville, I noticed how clean everything stayed. No backpacks, no noise, no chaos. That's when it hit me. You don't lose your kids all at once. You lose them in phases. And if you're on autopilot, you won't even notice the phases passing. At 60, I retired. People threw a party, speeches, handshakes, plaques with my name engraved. I smiled for the photos. But here's the truth. A plaque cannot hug you. A title cannot sit across from you at dinner. Meaning doesn't come from applause. It comes from presence. Now I'm 74. I sit on my porch most mornings with a cup of black coffee, watching the sun rise over quiet Iowa streets. The world moves fast, faster than it did in the 80s. Notifications, headlines, endless scrolling, and I see younger versions of myself everywhere. People rushing, people optimizing, people multitasking their way through dinner. Let me ask you one more thing. If someone recorded your average Tuesday, would you be proud to watch it? That question is uncomfortable. It should be. Autopilot feels productive. It feels responsible. It feels safe. But safety without awareness becomes a cage you don't even realize you're in. You don't need to quit your job. You don't need to move across the country. You need to wake up inside your current life. Have the hard conversation. Turn the phone off during dinner. Take the walk. Sit in silence. Ask yourself what you've been avoiding. Small awareness, repeated daily, breaks autopilot. I can't get my 40s back. I can't rewatch my daughter's concert. But I can tell you this. Don't wait for a hospital hallway. Don't wait for retirement. Don't wait for regret to shake you awake. Because the most dangerous thing about autopilot is that it feels completely normal while it quietly steals your years. If this story made you pause even for a second, don't ignore that feeling. That pause is awareness trying to break through. Share this with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want more real stories that might wake you up before it's too late, make sure you like and subscribe.